Okay, now we'll take this rear light cluster section off, and to do that we need to undo the 3 screws on this central section. I don't know what you call that, cob piece or something. Rather not go there. It's got 4 screws actually, 2 rather large ones. So undo the screws, like so, keep them safe if they come out. One of them, this one right at the front here is quite small, so be careful with it. Right, now you don't have to worry about anything pinging apart here, because this won't actually come apart any further unless you pry it apart. And in order to get the light cluster out of this central section, we have to take a screwdriver, very carefully pry the 2 halves apart like that, and that will give you enough space to grab hold of the light cluster section, then turn it to a vertical position, and then it slides out because it's held on with that little peg there. Slides out very easily, and that's that done. You don't have to take that off, even if you don't want to. I like to take it off because this will be chromed later, and it's easy to paint this as a separate piece rather than having to mask that all up and paint it while it's on the toy. So if you're going to chrome and paint these sections, then it's best to take them off. But it's up to you really. This also has a clear plastic lens in it to simulate stoplights, so that's held on with 2 screws right here. So we just undo those so we don't get paint all over them when we chrome it. There we go, put that in one of your parts boxes and put the screws that held it on back in place so they do not get lost. Put that away. Now let's put the screws back in the central section back together so they don't get lost. Long screwdriver. There we go. Don't have to worry about this section trying to force itself apart. There's no spring mechanisms inside there that want to pry it apart, and it can't come apart anyway because it's actually held together by a large pin that goes through that entire section, which we're not going to take out because it's unnecessary. So we just put these screws back in for now. Don't do them up tight, since you just got to undo them later to put the rear light cluster section back on that we just took off. And then take the final screw, the small one that goes up the front. There we go. All good. Now, to separate these 2 halves, it's not very hard. All you do is undo these 2 screws here. There's one here, and it's quite a large screw there, so use the appropriate size screwdriver. This one here is contained way down in here, inside this grey plastic bit, so you need a nice long skinny screwdriver to get in there to gain access. Make sure you got one of those. That needs to come out. And just actually, you should be able to use the same screwdriver on the other one. There you go. Make sure the screw doesn't fall out and get lost. There we are. Right, now to separate the 2 halves we need to take out these screws here in these rear toolbox sections. It's a bit tricky to get to, but if you've got a long skinny screwdriver you should be able to get access to it quite easily. So undo those screws. Keep them separate from the 2 screws that hold this section in, otherwise you don't want to get them mixed up. See what I mean about having a skinny screwdriver to get to this screw? There's that one. Repeat that process on the other side. Come on. There we go. Take the screw out. Keep it safe. Last one. Whee! There you go. Oh, right. So now, where is it? Here we are. Taking those two screws out here will allow these two halves to pry apart just enough to allow the toolbox sections to also come apart that we just unscrewed. And those two sections is what holds the top half and the bottom half of the robot together. And so we need to take those off. You see they attach there. Take those off, keep them safe. And while we're here, you can also take off the rear wheel arches, fenders, which slot into the toolbox sections there. So those can pop off now. And to keep everything together and safe, we'll put these back, screw them back on. I'll be chroming these later. This whole section needs to be chromed, so it's good to put them back on. Gently put the screws back in, don't have to be done up tight, just enough to keep the screws in. Repeat the process for the other side. Remember how these go together as well. Line up the holes in this piece of plastic with the holes on this piece, and you should be fine. It's easy to get them mixed up, but they can only really go on one way. Last one. There we are, and then we put these two back in their rightful positions. One, go in there. Done. All safe and sound now. And now we can put that away in our parts box along with the rear wheel arch sections. Okay, and that's most of the disassembly done. Everything that can be taken apart with a screwdriver has been taken apart with a screwdriver. Now we have to pull the hammer out and start whacking those pins out with one of these little things. And I'll be covering that next.